Assalamu alaikum viewers. I am Muhammad Asad Khan and right now I am giving Excel lesson number 9.3 on how to handle multiple pivot tables in one Excel sheet. So in my previous session I have given you a very brief lecture on how to create the pivot table on one Excel sheet separately and on the same Excel sheet in which you have your source data. So today we will try to learn how to create different tables of same data, of the same source data, parallel, and 4 or 5 or 6 tables giving different analysis. So this is sheet 5. It has the same pivot table which we had previously in the source sheet, this one, and I will move on sheet 5. So this is basically the pivot table on a separate sheet. What I will do, I will simply copy it through shift right arrow, down arrow, and then control plus C, and I will copy it here after giving a space of 2 columns. And I will later tell you then that why I am basically giving a space of 2 columns and here. So what I've done is I've placed the pivot table in column A3, in column E3, and in column I3. You can see that pivot table fields are basically appearing when I click on the main pivot table, and when I move on simple Excel column, it basically disappears. And again when I move to a pivot table it appears, and again on this it appears again. If I cancel it like this, it won't appear unless or until you make it enable. So what I will do, I will click on this pivot table, right click, and see there is option at the end, show field list. I will click it, so it's again appearing. So if it disappears, please don't get worried. Right click on the pivot table and make it appear again. So in this pivot table, we are basically analyzing the items versus the expenditure. In this pivot table, we can basically change the parameters. Just unclick the item and the expenditure, and then place like year in rows, and then expenditure, or you can say purchase from, if you want to check from where year wise, from which mall or from which superstore I have purchased different. I have basically made the expenditure. My expenditure is higher. So here in 2021, superstore 1, 2, 3, 4, and here is the total sum. So what I will do is I will basically sort it largest to smallest. It's called descending. And again, to ease to see the numbers clearly, I will make it in number format and then apply comma to it so that you can see it in thousand or millions. Okay, okay, see, and this one I will basically add uh, say items, and I will add years here under the items. So this is basically giving you a picture that how many items in different years were basically procured, and the items expenditure on items. If you want to see the number of items, you can basically drop the quantity here. See, so here the quantity is appearing. So now you have basically three different pivot tables on one worksheet. But one thing needs to be remembered, that these pivot tables, the million dollar question is that these pivot tables need to be copied in the vertical form, not horizontal form. Like if I copy this table under the first pivot table or on the first pivot table, control C, and if I try to place it here, control V, it will give an error message. We cannot make this change for the selected cells because it will affect a pivot table. Use the field list to change the report. If you're trying to insert deleted cells, move the pivot table and try again. Basically, you cannot place it here on one pivot table on another pivot table and also try to avoid placing it here. See, because if you want, if I want to basically extend this pivot table, pivot table extends automatically as per the availability of source data. So if I want to do the same analysis which I've done here, if I add the years here, it won't allow me. Again, the message is coming, we couldn't complete the action for the pivot table in the selected sheet because there's already a pivot table there. Make space and try again. See? So it's not recommended basically to place the pivot table under a pivot table or over a pivot table. Try to place it in the next cells so that it can have the liberty to move down. Basically, this pivot table, the way you have seen that 1, 2, 3 have, all these pivot tables have the same source, the source which is basically at sheet 1, same source, but the results are basically we are getting the different analysis out of that source data. You can see that the expenditure is same, 271,420. If I say in Hindi, it's or Urdu, it's 2,71,420, 2,71,420, and 2,71,420. So all the basically values, it's basically a compliance among the data. So all the values are the same, but the analysis is different. So in my today's lesson, I just want to tell you this is very important. People feel it very difficult that why these error messages are coming, but this is the actual and factual, basically, detail. So I think that you have gained a lot from my today's lesson, and I would request that kindly, if you feel that is valuable to you and others, so please like it, share it, and subscribe the channel so that I may come up with other good lessons. Thank you very much.